and welcome to our very special show on John Talks Indian Cinema. I am your host, the Indian Cine-MANIAC, back with another. It's going to be longer than 10 minutes. Most of them are, but this one's going to be longer because today I'm bringing on a special guest. That's right. From the old show, I'm bringing on, actually, it's his pick, at Drew Gould. Yeah, that's right. Drew Gould picked the film we're going to watch, and it's Rocketry, the Nambi Effect from 2022. I'm going to bring him on in a minute. Few things before I begin. So, right now, I'm hovering it right around, as of this recording, 830 subscriptions or so. But I noticed I've lost a few subscriptions. I'm not really sure why. So if you have any thoughts, let me know. Are you bored already? I'm never going to get to 1,000 if you're getting bored. I'm doing a lot of content. Maybe I'm doing too much content. I don't know. I'm watching a lot of stuff. But anyway, so before I bring Drew on, let's talk about Rocketry, the Nambi Effect. Now, there are two versions. There's the Tamil version, and there's the Hindi version. The Hindi version has Shah Rukh Khan in it. The Tamil version has Soraya, who I've seen in a couple of things. 24, Soraya, Protru, and Vikram. We both watched the Tamil version, the original version. And on YouTube, we looked at the Shah Rukh Khan scene, so I'll show you some of that. Now, the film was directed by Madhavan, who one of the first Indian films I've seen was Three Idiots, and he was one of the idiots. And I've seen him in a lot since then. Vikram Vedha, Shaitan, a few other ones. And I don't know if he's directed anything else. It stars Madhavan. It's Simran, who I've seen in Tiger 3. Rajat Kapoor, who was in Attack. Ravi Raghavendra. Misha Ghoshal, Surya, and in the Hindi version, Shah Rukh Khan as themselves. And they play the interviewers in this. Now, this is wait, I thought I wrote down his name. This is based on a real person. I can't believe I didn't put. Oh my goodness! Well, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go to my little research vessel here. I can't believe I didn't put this in. That's crazy. Okay, here we go. This is the true story of Nambi Narayanan, an Indian rocket scientist. It's a true story. I never heard of this story. Never knew anything about this gentleman, and especially what happened to him. But it's a very interesting story, and I have thoughts on it, but I'm not going to give you my thoughts now. I just wanted to give you a little background of it. First of all, I've always been fascinated with space. I think that's why I love science fiction. I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. But even as a kid, Robert Goddard is the father of rocketry in the United States. And I did a report on him, I think, when I was in seventh or eighth grade. So I love space. I love rockets. And this was a really interesting story. Now, obviously, what happened to him was awful. And that's what I want to talk to Drew about, because there were some things I didn't quite follow in this film about exactly what happened to him. So I'm sure Drew is much better at picking out that kind of stuff than I am. So I'm curious to hear what he needs to say. So without further ado, please welcome to John Talks Indian Cinema, my friend, Drew Gould. Well, welcome, Drew, to John Talks Indian Cinema.
Hello. Thanks
How
for
are
having
you?
me back.
Well, when you first came on, I didn't even recognize you. I was like, "Who's that thin guy with no beard? What's going on?" You know that movie Thinner? Did you run into a
Yeah, it's
gypsy or anything?
I have not been cursed.
You
That's
look
not
great.
happening. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, man. Really.
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, it needed to happen for my health, and I just had my recent, like checkup and blood tests and things, and it's like I've never had some of these problems ever, which is great. So
Yeah, that's
I'm very
wonderful.
happy about
That's
it.
great. I know Kelly is doing really well too, I hear.
Yep.
Excellent.
It's a
Okay,
much healthier house.
so I've been going down my recommended list, and there's a lot of movies that you guys are recommending.
What?
It's
Huh.
unbelievable, and I'm trying to watch them all. But this one was actually recommended by you, and
Hmm.
you wanted to watch Rocketry, the Nambi Effect.
Yeah.
And so we both watched the Tamil version. We did not watch the Hindi version with Shah Rukh Khan. But like you, I went to YouTube to look at some of the scenes to see how they matched up, and they were like identical, including when
Yeah.
the real guy showed up at the end, which
Right.
I have thoughts about that too. But let's start. We always start with the story.
Right.
So, Drew, I'm gonna, because you're a guest on my show, I'm gonna let you run down the story a little bit. I usually do this, but give us a little
Okay.
synopsis of the film.
Well, let me just say first, the reason that I picked this film is because I love space movies. I love history movies. I love what I call control room movies. That has to have at least one scene that's good, and in this case, it's really the engine test
Yeah,
of the Vicus engine. But I love all of those kinds of things, and this movie, we'll talk about this more, I'm sure, but it's also clearly a real passion project by Madhavan, who stars
yeah,
in it, wrote it, and directed it, and made it happen. So it's the true story of uh, um, Nambi Narayanan, who basically is literally a rocket scientist genius for India, and he is, I guess, the sort of the second generation of the Indian space program. The first generation, there's you see him in the movie. Sarabhai is sort of the older guy at the beginning,
yeah. His
and
mentor.
he's what the TV series Rocket Boys is
Oh,
about him and his counterpart, and these two men that basically built what began the Indian space program and Indian nuclear missile program. And I'd like to watch that with you too because I haven't seen that.
nor have
But
I.
this story is about him, basically building with his genius and his wiles and building a great team, which he sometimes seemed like he acknowledged but always worked with, building the Indian space program until, again, all true, he was essentially accused of treason in the 90s. And this started in the late 60s, this story. And it destroyed his life for a long time. And he was seen as a traitor. And it's very clear in the whole movie that he's a patriot.
You're right.
And he does things that I think are certainly reprehensible, like not telling someone their kid died, but he did it for patriotism, for his nation, for India. And the idea that he was a traitor should have been laughable on its face, especially without proof. And people believed it, and people, they got rid of him and
Yeah.
his
I
hurt
think
his
50
family.
days he was in captivity, right? He was
Yeah, and
held
he
for
was
50 days.
tortured, and they show there's some scenes of torture in the movie. It's very interesting because that section of the movie, the aspect ratio actually shrinks
That's right.
to a window box, which it just feels more closed in. I thought that was actually kind of a clever choice. Um, but but yeah, so it's about this man who you could say it's a redemption story, but he doesn't really need redemption. He needs his name cleared. And I presume that this is a story that everybody in India knows. And to see a movie telling this story, I think it was well received by critics. I think it did well at the box office. It won awards. So I was just curious for that too, because any of these movies that are really giant hits across the regions of India and everything, I'm curious about them too. So
Did
so
you
that's
know
the story
anything
of him.
about this prior to watching this?
I knew a little bit about the space program in India and scrappy it is, and
Yeah.
how it's done extraordinary things. Like,
With no budget?
yeah, like
Yeah.
one of the things that starts the movie, and then you see how they, not in great detail, but you see how they did that, where their first try launched a satellite to Martian orbit, and it worked. And I remember, I think we were doing this show that they had a lander. There were two missions, and they had a lander, and that was successful. And so, that I knew about, but I've never heard of the names of the people
Yeah.
involved. I know a lot more about NASA and Werner von Braun
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
other international people, but
Well, he could have
um,
worked for NASA and he turned it
yeah,
down.
yeah. And I wonder what kind of world that would have been too. But again, he's like, I'm Indian,
Yeah.
and this is my nation. And so yeah, so no, I didn't know the details of this man and his life and the ridiculous tragedy that
And even at
that
the
befell
end,
him.
when the interviewer, Surya in the Tamil and Shah Rukh Khan in the Hindi, apologized for the country. he wasn't looking for an apology. To your point, he just wanted his name cleared.
Yep.
And he
And his
wasn't, and
family.
I thought he was going to break down and be like, "Yes, I accept your apology." And I guess that's what really happened. Now, I will tell you that the only thing that kind of bothered me about watching the two versions
Mm,
was when he played himself, when he shows up at the end as himself,
right.
and the emotion of that scene, and then to see it twice, it kind of, for me, it kind of was like, oh, so it was kind of an act.
Yeah.
Where if I didn't see the other version, I would have thought, it really happened the way they showed it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So
No,
that
I
was
mean,
kind
as
of
far as
weird to
I know,
watch it.
that's not a real interview that happened or
No,
anything.
right.
So it's kind of like, to give him a platform to tell his story and to let people see what really happened to him and who he really is. I mean, that feels realistic. As
Yeah.
to why a movie star would do it, I don't know. But I knew that you would want to watch the Hindi version because you're a big SRK fan.
Well,
Um,
but I
I'm
I
not. I just haven't seen a lot of his
I
movies.
prefer the original language rather
Yes.
than like a Hindi dub or whatever, or
Hmm.
a Hindi version. And it was Tamil, so that's why I watched the Tamil. But I was really curious about the SRK scenes because yes, I've become a big fan. But I wanted to see, and he did this movie. He really wanted to be in this movie because this guy meant a lot to him
Oh, I
uh
didn't know that. That's
personally. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. So that's why he did that. And there's I think he even tears up a little bit where Syria didn't do that in the
Hmm.
Tamil version. But it was an interesting choice because normally in movies like this, they let the real person either do a cameo as somebody
Right.
else or
Right.
they show a picture at the end. So the fact that whole scene, and he was there, it wasn't just, 10 seconds. He was there for a little bit.
Well, that's why when he appeared, I was like, "Oh, this is the end of the movie, and he's going to accept the apology, like you said."
Right.
And then I was like, "Wait a minute, there's like another 20 minutes left."
Yeah.
So,
And then that walk
yeah.
down the hallway,
Hmm.
him, and it also it was another interesting choice because to do that, as Madhavan was made up to look like him and
Hmm.
then transfer to the real guy, that's a brave thing to do if it doesn't look right. And it looked right
Yeah, it felt
because he
right.
looked enough like him, and he put on weight, and he
Hmm.
had the full head of hair. So I thought it was a good choice, and it was good to hear his real voice too. You know
Yes,
what I
I
mean? Like
agree.
the guy
I
that you've
agree.
been watching about for 2.5 hours or whatever it was. That's the real person. So I like that. But like I said, the only thing that kind of was like the emotion of the scene, his scene, was diminished a little bit because he did it twice with two different actors.
Well, also, I mean, he's first of all, he's to play yourself is a real challenge, I think, especially if you're not an actor. That like Howard Stern played himself in Private
Yeah.
Parts, and
Yeah.
it's one of the greatest, playing yourself type of performances ever. It's kind of an extraordinary thing. And so this guy doesn't have to carry the movie or anything,
Right.
but I know they shot the whole movie in Tamil and in Hindi.
Hindi. Yeah.
So, if you start to picture the real guy doing takes and
Right.
doing different
Exactly.
languages and stuff like that, I mean, okay, but he's still alive.
Right.
He's
Oh, he is
still,
still alive now? Oh, yeah. This
yeah,
is
he's still
20.
alive now. I
This is
think he's
2022, right? Yeah.
83 or something. Yeah. And so, it was some of the choices in the way that they tell the story and make this movie are very sort of obvious, broad type of choices to, as you said, do something very different than just show him at the end next to Madhavan or put him on the
Yeah.
title card or something. I thought it worked too.
So did I.
I thought it worked
I
too.
did
It
too.
was moving. It was
And again, if
a
I didn't
moving
watch the
story.
Shah Rukh Khan thing on YouTube, I probably would have worked even more for me.
Hmm.
So that's my fault, but I did want to see the difference. And the whole cast was the same except for the interviewer, and there was one other part. I think it was his mentor was
Oh, really?
played. Yeah, that was played by two different people
Okay.
depending on the Hindi or Tamil version. I didn't write it down.
I
Um,
know that there were little differences. I think that they were negligible as far
yeah.
as, the experience of the movie, but I
Yeah,
did see
pretty
that there
bold
were
choice
little
to do two
differences.
versions like that. To widen the appeal. Now, my question to you is, well, first of all, let's. What did you rate the story? 1 to 5.
Let me take a look at my score. Um, I gave the story 3.5 out of 5.
Okay.
And the reason I did that is because I think it is, it's a very compelling story. And as I said, it's about things in which I'm already interested. But a movie that's a biopic, that's someone's whole life. So it's not like Lincoln is a biopic about a specific period trying to get the Emancipation Proclamation passed. So you can focus on that. And in some ways that makes it feel more real. Because if you do a biopic where you're covering decades of someone's life, which I'm not saying this is a bad idea, it can't help but feel episodic.
Right.
And so, especially the first half of the movie, it was like intermittently compelling. The movie as a whole, it certainly wasn't bad or anything, but I was like, this is really exciting. And then wait, how much time has passed? And what's the change and what's that? So it kind of didn't really come together. The second half of the movie is largely really like 2 years.
Right.
94 to 96. So I think the story it's not as well told as I would have liked, but it is still well told, and it's a huge story. So
yeah, I gave it a 3 because I didn't. Well, first of all, they start off with the whole family getting assaulted and him getting arrested, and if you don't know anything about this guy's story, you have no idea what was going on. But for me, the one thing, and I said this in my intro that I did, that maybe you could explain it. I didn't quite understand why he was framed for espionage and who did the framing. Now, they implied that it was Barry, that guy that kept showing up throughout his life in Russia, but they never paid that off, but they definitely implied it. But I didn't understand who was doing it and what the motivation was to frame him. Was it just to slow down the Indian space program? Like, I didn't catch that. Did you? That's why I'm giving the story a 3, because that part of it, which is a huge part of this film, I didn't really understand why it was happening to him.
I think in real life, and your viewers will definitely correct me if I'm wrong, I think we don't really know. I think we don't really know, that there was one party behind all of it and what happened. And the movie implies that it's an international conspiracy and that Barry, who's clearly as much CIA as he is NASA or whatever, that was something that, the way it's told in the movie, it could be to punish India for having been able to get, the rocket parts from Russia. It could be just to, keep someone else's space program down, like all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I have no idea how plausible that really is or isn't. But what you ended up having more complex than what you see in the movie is multiple law enforcement agencies going after him. And that's why he got settlements that they say in the credits from multiple law enforcement agencies.
Right. Like, and the Supreme Court ended up
from this one and 1 million
saying
from
he was
one.
innocent.
And, yeah.
But it took forever. I think 2004, I think it was.
It took many years.
Yeah.
And, by the time that you get to the end of the movie, it's 2019, and he's receiving essentially like the presidential, medal.
Yeah, the third highest medal they have.
Civilian honor.
Yeah.
By the president.
Because that just kind of I just couldn't figure that out. And then the fact that nobody was coming to his defense. Like even India, which he did all this amazing stuff for their program, and they didn't come to his defense. The space program that he worked for. Now they explained it when I did the research. They explained it. They said they couldn't do anything. They weren't allowed to do anything, so that's why. But that to me was a little, and I'm not looking for the film to be longer, but I needed a little something more. Because it got confusing. Now, what they put him through,
you wanted a scene where Israel leadership was like, you can't get involved. He's a spy.
Yeah,
you cannot go talk to him. You cannot be interviewed about it. Like, you wanted that scene, and I don't know that really happened, but that seems like that's what happened, because the guys who actually did see him and be at his home when he came home, and his old friends, like they seemed like they were stepping out of bounds professionally to support their friend, which is
the one guy who helped
one of my favorite scenes. I don't know if it happened, but for Uni to be the guy.
That's what I mean. The one guy that helped him was the guy he screwed the most.
Yeah, that was lovely.
Yeah,
that was lovely.
And in fact, that's who I thought framed him.
Right. Well, that's the way that scene starts off.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. Well, then
Yep.
he's the only guy that helped him.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, well, that can't be who did it. So who the hell did it? And then, like I
Yep.
said, then they showed the Barry stuff. He won the Padma Bhushan, which is the third highest
Okay.
award in India. Um, so I gave the story a three. And a movie like this made me do a little research afterwards, so I read into the
Sure.
character more. But you're right; they don't know who framed him, and it really wasn't clear why they framed him. It just seems to me
Yeah.
like they were just trying to get him. They were trying to kill their space program. And the thing they did at the beginning, which I really liked, the mission to Mars. USA tried this many times.
Yep.
Russia
Yep.
tried this many times.
For this much
India tried
money. Yeah.
once.
Yeah. For
Waiting on the
$71 million.
first try. I said that's
Yeah.
pretty cool. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I never knew that. So I like stuff like that. Okay, performances.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Some of them are very broad, but I was okay with that. I found them really quite compelling. I thought that Madhavan did, a really fine job. This main character Nambi he's more complicated than like the smartest guy in the room, or he's a real arrogant jerk. He is like a father and a husband and that's what he apologizes at the end at the wedding. He clearly did not prioritize his family. And you can have your own opinion about what that means and if that's good or bad, and that balances against his patriotism and all that kind of stuff. But I really liked it, and I found there are characters, I still don't know their names just because I just didn't pick them up.
Yeah.
But, except for Uni, but the guys that worked with him,
Yeah.
they were all these three other guys, they were distinct.
Yeah.
They were consistent characters, and a number of the people that he met through his education and through his work and people from the other countries. I guess they shot a lot of it in Serbia, so that's why a lot of the actors playing Europeans are all Slavic performers
Well,
and
they did have
have
some
those accents and
they
stuff.
had some great green screen shots, like when the Statue of Liberty was behind them. There was a
Yeah.
couple other ones. It's like, okay, I know that these films don't have big budgets, but come on, you can do a little better than that. But I think, look, the movie rises and falls on his performance.
Oh yeah,
And it was a
well
four
said.
for me because he starts off so young and idealistic. Like when he worked for that guy in the house, he was doing all the servant stuff for them
Hmm.
with the mother. And then as he gets more ambitious, and he's making all these deals. And then at the end, when you see him, when he's got the full beard, the white hair, and big, I just thought it was a wonderful performance. So different from Three Idiots, obviously.
Oh
Think of how
sure.
young he was when he did that. And I don't know if he's directed anything else, but I thought, there were interesting choices he made with some of like he would do these flashbacks, but they were like literally flashes. They were like
Hmm.
6 and 7 second clips. He did that throughout the film. I thought that was an interesting thing. But I thought all the performances were really good. I liked the fact that it was predominantly English speaking, so you didn't have to read a lot of subtitles. Everyone was
Hmm.
speaking English for most of it, which is a nice little rest from all the subtitled movies that I've been watching over the years.
Oh, have
But
you
yeah,
been
yeah,
watching a lot of subtitled movies, John? I didn't know.
yeah, and I don't mind it. I really, it's so funny. I've gotten to the point where you don't even realize you're
Right.
watching them till you watch a movie like this when everyone is speaking English, and then you
But they
realize you're
still
not
they
looking
still
at
put
this.
the English subtitles on, and you still end up reading it. So.
That's true. Well, like I watch movies on YouTube now because you
Hmm.
can't find them anywhere else, and they have
Hmm.
the auto translate, and it
Oh
it
gosh.
screws it up so
Yeah.
bad that it'll say a line. I go, I know that's not what that person said,
Yeah. There's
but
there's an art to thoughtful translation, and I don't think
yes,
YouTube
and they're
AI or
not very
whatever.
thoughtful on
Yeah,
YouTube.
will not do it. But I
Okay,
will
so
say,
we
I
give
mean, you talked about him performing this character over so long a period. I didn't want to be distracted by what I'm about to say, and I noticed that I wasn't distracted by it, and that noticing it didn't distract me. I was really like, at a certain point, old people makeup is going to ruin this. And I don't know, it just didn't bother me. And
no
then
because
when he made that switch to the
they
real
didn't
guy, it didn't
overdo it.
bother me.
That's
Yeah,
right, they
right,
didn't overdo it. That's why. Which I like too, because sometimes the makeup they use, it's so or all they'll do is they'll look exactly the same, but they'll put some gray in the temples,
right,
and
right.
that's not what they did in this. His body throughout the film transformed
Right.
from where he
That made it
started
more
and where he ended
believable.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When his
so
hair started to get gray in the temples, he put on some weight, and
that's
he
right.
was just a fuller, older looking person, and
Yeah.
that's natural and normal. So
So yeah, I like that. Now, as far as the music goes, uh, I love the opening. Where it was the first song. It was kind of a chant, but it starts off in outer space, and the
Hmm.
camera just zooms down to the village. I just love that shot. I love the music behind it. And then there was
I think
a
that's
lot of
it's actually on the soundtrack, which there are 5 versions of it in different languages. It's actually uh, a Hindi religious chant, and it was released as a 28-minute piece of music.
oh,
So
really?
apparently, it was a really big deal.
Wow.
This
I don't know
version
if
of
I
it.
could listen to that for 28 minutes. I'm not going to
I
lie.
don't, I don't either, but I totally agree with you to,
Y-
to come from space down
Yeah.
through there and talk about effects. I mean, I wasn't super disappointed in that either, and I think it worked out pretty well. So it was
I
beautiful.
also felt like the incident, and this is something I've been noticing in the last few films I've been watching. The music isn't, they're not doing these extraneous musical numbers that come out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Uh, like the second song was background music when they were working in France, but
I like that song. That was really fun.
there was a
Yeah.
real jazzy score to this. The
Hmm.
background music, the incidental music. I really enjoyed this, and I like the fact that they didn't step aside to do some extraneous dance number.
Right.
So in this case, because the incidental music was so effective, I give the music a 4. Where normally, I usually give it a 3 because I don't care one way or the other. But I thought for
Hmm.
this, it worked really well with the time periods that they were doing, and
Okay.
I helped it enhance the story. What do you think?
I gave it a 3 out of 5. I thought, the only song I wrote, only one song was memorable, and it's that jaunty tune when
Yeah,
they first arrived in France.
yeah.
I really liked it, and also it was really funny. I was processing it through Atmos, and when the tuba or whatever low brass kicks in, all of a sudden it was all over the ceiling, which
Oh,
is really
really?
funny. Like it was very like really absorbing. It was funny. But I did like the score. I know that some of the scenes that I got really emotionally, involved in, like the first Vicus engine
Yeah.
test and all that kind of stuff. The score worked. It worked for me. So um, it was um, it was not a movie like some of these movies. I'll have a bunch of songs, and I'm just like, I just didn't like any of them.
Right.
I don't remember any of them
Right.
except for the one, but I liked the score, so that's how I ended up with
That
three
whole
out of
the whole
five.
scene in France was one of the better scenes of the movie when they're pretending that they can't speak French,
Yeah,
and then on the
yeah,
way out, they st they
yeah. It was
spoke
funny.
perfect
And
fluent
they're like, "Wait a
French.
minute, did he just speak French?" Yeah, it
Fluent
was fun.
French. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know how much of that is true as far as something like that, but I know that they did, work on the Ariane rocket program, and they learned a lot and took it home. So,
Yeah, and how would they get away with that without like being accused of espionage even from France? You know what I mean? Once they got
well, I mean,
caught.
they were working on things together,
Yeah.
so
Well, he also advanced the program.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Okay, so overall verdict, I'll give you mine. I'm going to give this film, I'm going to give it a 4. I really liked it. It was it didn't drag for me. It kept my interest, other than my one complaint about not really understanding the whole espionage, why and whom, which maybe that's just the reality. They don't know.
as far as I know, that's
Yeah, that
accurate,
could be.
which
But
is not a satisfying answer, but
yeah, yeah,
that's really what it
exactly. For
is.
for what he went through, you just want some answers. And
Oh
that's
yeah,
and I
so
guess I
so does
kind of feel
he.
like him, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's feeling. So that's why I'm gonna give it a 4. This was a good watch. I really enjoyed it. You?
I'm gonna give it a 3.5 out of 5
3.5. All right.
because it was a good watch and I enjoyed it. As like I said, it was a little uneven, especially the first half. That didn't cripple the movie for me. I was never bored or anything, but especially the first half, we were just kind of bouncing along through his life, and I found that I really like the characters a lot.
Yeah.
And also, I have to say, you talked about the opening of the movie is his family being assaulted, which is very upsetting, and it's
Yeah.
very well done. I assume if you are Indian, you already know this.
Right.
Like this is a
That's
huge
right.
story. So you're probably someone, a lot of people who would be like, oh wow, they're finally making a movie of this story that we all know. I hope it's good, or I don't think they should do it, or whatever. Like we didn't bring any of those opinions to it. It was just like this is a true
Right.
story. This is a biopic about a person who is extraordinary and worthy of making a movie about, that kind of thing. So I ended up with 3.5 out of 5, which I was looking at the way I've been rating movies on Letterboxd, and like if I think it's awesome, I give you 8 out of 10. If it's not quite there, 7.5. I mean, seven will do it. So 3.5
Hey, three and a
out of
half out of
five.
five is a good score.
I
Nothing
liked it.
wrong with
And
that.
if yeah, and
Yeah.
if you want a good space movie and history movie and all those things that I said, I think it works.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, great. You watching anything interesting, Drew? We used to do that on the old show that you want to share with anybody. Did you
Uh,
finally? Please tell me you've seen The Penguin.
no, I haven't watched it yet. There's too much TV and movie
You are
stuff.
killing me.
Choices. I know. It's not that I don't want to. I mean,
Oh,
I
it's
thought
so
Colin
good.
Farrell was the best part of the
He
Batman, and
was.
that wasn't a bad movie or anything, but he was really good.
He's
So
so good in the show. Oh.
that's
All right,
what
give
I
me something you're
understand.
watching. Not 20
Well,
things, just one.
I'll just give you one.
All right.
I watched a movie that I've been wanting to watch for a while. I did not watch it in the theater because I didn't quite get a chance, and also I thought I'm gonna cry the whole time, which I did, and I don't feel like doing that in the theater. But I watched The Wild Robot, which is Chris Sanders' animated movie. It's
Yeah.
up for the Best Animated Film Oscar. It's up for Best Score that Chris Bowers did, which is spectacular, and it's up for what is it? Maybe sound, something like that. I don't know, but it was really kind of just a glorious and beautiful movie. The
It
animation
looked
itself is
beautiful.
beautiful.
The
Yeah.
scenes I've seen from it look beautiful.
And some of the reviews I read, they said sort of what I felt as I was watching it. It was like, oh, this is the kind of Pixar movie that Pixar doesn't make anymore. But I don't want to reduce it like that because Chris Sanders did another one of my favorite big Hollywood animated movies, which is How to Train Your Dragon.
Oh, yeah.
And um, there are clear connections and themes between those two movies in a wonderful way. But I just thought it was really beautiful. It was really moving. If you watch it, you won't know what to do with yourself because it's only like an hour and 35 minutes or something. But I would recommend it. The thing that's nice is I would recommend it to literally anyone. Like anyone could watch it. If you have little kids, you could watch it with your kids. You're going to have to explain why you cried so much. But especially, I don't have kids. I would imagine if you're a parent, the movie will hit you in an even more intimate way. But I'm always looking for the Iron Giant or
Love Iron
one of
Giant.
those animated films that really sticks with me. And this made it to that list for me. So I would
Well, we'll
recommend
have
The Wild
to.
Robot
Okay,
for sure.
there's Drew's recommendation. Check it out. We did Wolf Children on this show. It was a
Yes.
Japanese anime about werewolves.
Hmm.
Absolutely gorgeous movie. I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful.
Well, I
Um,
really want to see Flow, which may well win the Oscar. That's the Estonian animated film about a black cat that gets stuck on a boat with a capybara and some other animals. And The Wild Robot is about a robot and building a relationship with wild animals. So I think that probably there are some thematic things. Flow is currently on Max, and The Wild
I haven't
Robot is
heard
on
of that one.
Peacock.
I don't think I've heard of
But
most of the movies that are up for Oscars. So
well, if you watch the trailer for Flow, I dare you to not want to see it. It is gorgeous. It doesn't look like anything else that's
the
out there.
gauntlet has been thrown.
It's really beautiful.
All
And
right.
you're not one of those people. We both know people that are like, I'm not watching it. It's a cartoon.
No, I listen.
And yeah.
I have no problem with animation. I love
No,
animation.
I mean, because you just cut yourself out of some amazing storytelling. And so
Exactly.
I'm hoping in my head I haven't hyped up Flow too much, but I didn't hype up The Wild Robot too much. So
Well, okay, so we'll that's the pick here. So check it out, you guys. Excuse me. All right, so Drew, thank
wait,
you
have you
for
seen any? Have you seen anything that isn't from the subcontinent?
I've been watching the show Invincible, which
Okay.
I really like, but unfortunately, like The Boys, the first season was so good,
Yeah.
and the last two seasons are just okay.
Right.
And that kind of bums me out. The one that I haven't watched yet, but I'm not going to watch until all the episodes drop, is the third season of Reacher. Loved
Oh
all
yeah.
those books. I read all the books, and I love Alan Richardson in that role. But
So good.
yeah,
So
he is,
fun.
and he fits the role so much. And I like Tom Cruise. Don't get me wrong, but he fits
Yeah.
it so much better than Tom Cruise. But
Well, I mean, the
that's
Jack
it.
Reacher movie was great. Like I
Yeah,
really, really enjoyed
but if you
it.
read
And
the book,
right,
you would
and
you
the
would
guy is
never
what,
see
like
Tom Cruise.
6'9" in the book or something.
He's
Yeah,
he's 6'5", 270 pounds.
yeah. It's a
Not
big
five
dude.
foot six at maybe 150, maybe
Yep,
160.
yep.
But they were still good movies. Don't misunderstand me.
Well, the
Oh
first one was good.
yeah, first one. Yeah, first one was good. So that's it, Drew. Thank you for doing this. We'll do it again. I promise. It's
Great.
fun to get a little back and forth going. Maybe it'll help because we're shooting for 1,000. I'm at 830 subscribers. A
Yep.
thousand's
I've
a
been
magic
watching.
number. Yeah.
All right.
So maybe
Let's
this
get
will
there.
do it. So if
I
you're new
hope
to the
so.
channel, please subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button, and you have to share the videos because YouTube is not pushing this out yet. So we need you to do that. Right, Drew? Right?
That's right. You
can do
gotta if you want your show that you love, which by the way, John, you have been doing so much. I am so impressed.
Thank you.
I think I looked the last time I looked, it was like, oh, okay, 830 subscribers. That's awesome. Like 120 videos or something.
Yeah, 140.
140.
Now
Yeah,
I'm
there
doing
you go.
trailer
So I'm
reactions
already
too.
behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trailer
So,
reactions
you
are
know,
easy to do and they get a lot of hits. So I'm doing a lot
Yeah,
of those too.
it's awesome.
But
It's
I
awesome.
love it. And new subscribers are giving me films to watch. So
What?
it's
can't
just so
believe it.
hard to they get mad when I don't watch it right away. And I've got this long list. I said, guys,
I'll
I'll
bet you
get to
do.
it. That's my new thing now. If you recommend it, I'll watch it. ... Eventually.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me thank you for having me. I love coming on, and I'm
Oh,
happy
you're
to
welcome.
do it again. And thank you for letting me pick this movie because this movie has actually been on my list. I wanted to check it out for a while, so this was a fun way to do it.
Well, maybe down the road we'll have to watch Rocket Boys because
I'd
now
love
you've got me intrigued based on this film. So we'll see.
Well, you've watched and enjoyed not all, but a bunch of Indian TV
Yeah,
shows.
Patal
And
Lock,
apparently this
Sacred
is one
Games,
of the this is
Mirzapur.
one of the best ones as well.
I will check it out. I will check it out. Let me know. Let
Okay.
me if any of you have seen it. Let me know what you think about Rocket Boys if you've seen it because I actually think someone recommended that. But when you get into series, man, it's hard enough to watch the movies. Now they want me to watch the series.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Well, this one is only 2 seasons and it's maybe 8 episodes a season.
8 episodes total.
No, a season.
Oh, per season.
So
That's not too bad.
It's more manageable.
Yeah.
You know, you could get into reviewing Turkish soap operas on Netflix, and those are like
That's what my
literally
mother
580
watches.
episodes. Yeah.
That's what my mother watches. I can't watch that stuff.
It's so funny.
All right. Well, listen, Drew, thank you so much. And again, thank all of you for watching. And we'll talk to you soon on John Talks Indian Cinema with either a 10-ish minute trailer reaction or a 10-ish minute review. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, John. See you guys.
Zubi dubi nache क्यों पागल stupid man
Zooby dooby bum para, zooby dooby ba dum bum. Zooby dooby nache, you